How to Grow a Garden. I'm Scarlett. Today we are going to be planting out the dahlias. So you may be wondering why I'm on the floor, and that is because I keep my dahlias in this box. Now I gotta get this out, I gotta open it, check it, and more importantly I gotta get it in the garden. So that's what I'm doing today. I'm taking the dahlias and planting them in the garden. Really simple. This is just a continuation on the dahlia playlist of what I've done all year long, from planting, pruning, caring for, deadheading, and of course harvesting the bulbs themselves, and then storing them and all that good stuff. So this will go into the dahlia list. Do check out my playlist. It'll be up here somewhere if you want to know more about what to do with your dahlias at whatever stage you are at. So here we go. Let's tackle our dahlias. All right, here's the box. Woo, looking good. All right, so what I did is, like you know, in the last episode, is I prepped them and cleaned them, took off all the ends and stuff, made them really beautiful. But then what I did in spring is, about 3 weeks ago, I turned the heat up in this room, so it's nice and hot. So let's see, it's at 24.2 today. That is also because I have little chicks in this room. My brooder is right over here, and the chicks are 3 days old. So by turning on the heat in this room a few weeks early, before I'm putting them outside, I've activated the bulbs or the tubers, and I've got them to start their growth, which means when I put them outside, it's only going to take a few days and they're just going to shoot off. Isn't that beautiful? Look at all those little white shoots just coming up in there. That is a huge tuber. Now, if I had tried to separate this back in fall, I would have had a really hard time with that, because I can clearly see now that although I have a tiny little green dot, I really only have one shoot in this whole thing. And I think, oh, we've got one tiny one coming in right here. So, if I had cut this up, I would essentially be shooting myself in the foot, because I would have lost all this energy that is now going to go into this one shoot. So that's fantastic that I didn't cut it up until spring, or that I didn't cut it up at all, and now in spring I know I don't want to cut it. When I opened box back in January, if I'd found something like this, if I had found that the tubers were already starting to grow, to send up their shoots, then what I would do is take it out and put it into a terracotta pot, just like I did back in January. But if you haven't watched that episode, that's the tip. So make sure you take it out and you put it into a pot. Don't like break them off or try to get it to go back into hibernation. So I've got 15 large tubers on the top shelf and about 20 on the bottom, and then I've got a whole bunch of little ones. And here's a great example of a little tuber that's just a tuber all by itself, and it still managed to sprout. So don't throw these out in fall or in January when you're going through your box. Make sure you keep these little guys, because you never know which one's going to develop an eye and turn into something cool. Okay, that's really important. So let's go aside. Okay, so planting out your dahlias. So what you want to do is, again, plant them 2 to 3 times the height of your dahlias. So let's say 1, 2. So we're going to go about 8 inches deep here. Now, I have 2 types, and I believe I have the 8. Ooh, I'm going to have to go back and look at this, but I believe, on the last videos, I believe I have my 6 to 8 feet on the bottom and my 3 to 5 feet on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and plant them that way. It's important in my garden anyway that I know that I'm not planting something small in the back, and there are different areas where I have lower beds and higher beds. Now, it rained the last few days. It's done a lot of raining lately, and I even came out of water just a little bit right before I did this. So I'm not going to worry about fertilizing or giving it anything in underneath here, adding anything extra, because I've already added horse manure to this soil. In fact, here you can see bits and pieces of it. This is horse manure that has been breaking down, decomposing for a year, and I put a foot of it all over the garden. So I'm going to take my dahlia and place it in the bottom and just cover it up. I do have to consider where I'm putting it. Now I want to put some beefsteak tomatoes here. I've got my cherry tomatoes over there. I'm going to have a row of dahlias, and I kind of do this pretty much the same every year. Now the garden evolves and it gets bigger and more complex and more interesting, but I like the fact that every year it's got some amount of certainty to it. So I really like with the dahlias, circle this this pavilion, and I think this year I'm going to put some on the outside of the garden, on the other side of the barn, so that when the ducks are sitting in their little house, they'll have a beautiful view. Now, remember to water the soil before you plant your plants. No matter what you're planting, it's always a good idea to give the soil a really good drench about 45 minutes or so before, so it can soak all the way into the bottom. If you get in there and you start digging and you realize that a few inches down it's dry, that's not good. You want to really get that nice and wet, or nice and moist, so that once you put your plant in, your seed, your tuber, your root, your bulb, whatever it is going to be activated because it has soil and it has moisture, and that's going to get it to grow right away. Okay, so when placing your dahlias, you want to put them into the ground about a foot apart in all directions. So what I like to do is just place them where I want them to be, so I know that I'm at the right distance, I know where they are. These guys actually come out, and they're really easy. The soil is so loose, I just give them a little yank, up they come. And I also have to make sure that I leave a little bit of space here in the front for a few things. I'm going to plant smaller things in the front, so I need space for that. But also I know that right here is where Jimmy likes to stand. And you know, when you've got pets in your garden, you really have to consider if you put a plant right in front of a path, they're going to chew it down or jump over it or walk over it, or you're going to have to get them to move, which means just put up blockers. But if you can work around things like that, all across this part I've got lemon balm, which is perennial, and this back here is an azalea. And something happened to this azalea this year. It does not look very good at all. And then over there I've got some sage that comes up, and generally I put a lot of herbs around the edge of this garden with the thyme covering the rock, so it's really, really pretty. If you didn't grow dahlias last year and you don't have any, don't worry. You don't have to grow dahlias in order to have dahlias. You can buy them. So the best way to buy your dahlias is in spring. You'll go to your local building center or your nursery, and there will be tons of bulbs and flowers. What they're going to look like is exactly what I just pulled out of the ground. Probably be sprouting if you've got them later on in the season. They will be smaller than what you'll pull out of the garden at the end of the season, but they're going to look about the same. Now, my big tip with this, and the reason why I bought these dahlias in the first place, I think there's about 25 in here additionally, and actually I put in 55 at my in-laws in the last few days, so these are some of the leftovers from there. But my problem is, I went to the building mart and I was there to get a piece of tool, a little something to work on the barn, and I saw these, and of course it was the beginning of May. Now here, the beginning of May is pretty much the end of putting in your bulbs, and so they were on sale. And you know what that means. Now, let me give you an idea. One of these typically costs about $5, and you get, let's see, 2 dahlias in here for $5. Sometimes you get 5 dahlias, but they'll be really tiny. Sometimes you actually get 10. This pack is of 10. Each one is kind of small, but that would be a little more expensive. And I also got some gladiolas, which is a really great tip if you guys want to grow gladiolas. If you mix them with your dahlias, they'll support each other and they look really, really beautiful. Gladiolas are gorgeous by themselves, but they tend to fall over, so if you put them together, I really like that. So anyway, each one of these was on sale for €1, which is like exchange rate like $1.20 or $1.40, depending on where we are with the exchange rate and what time you're watching this, but €1 each instead of $4 or $5. So that's pretty cool, which is why I pretty much bought the entire remaining pile in the store. I went back 3 times until there was nothing left, nothing that I wanted anyway. So you can definitely go to your local, your favorite nursery and pick up your dahlias that way. These are also, what are these? These are some lilies I got a few lupins. Now, I'm growing lupins, but I just had to because they were so cute and nobody was taking them, and oh, the poor things, you know. Sometimes it gets me, like, if I don't buy them, they'll go to waste, and you can't let flowers die. My color scheme here in the garden is pretty much pink and blue, so most of these are pinks and blues, and the red ones are for my in-laws. So these actually are firebirds, and there's one in each one. I got 2. Those were the only 2 that I had left. And a few years ago I planted them at my in-laws because their color scheme is more in the reds, yellows, and orange. side of things, so that's perfect for them. And they're really, really interesting. They're like, they come up straight, and then they're kind of like birds of prey, but a little prettier. Birds of prey are really strong and chunky, and these are a little more delicate than that. Anyway, they're firebirds. I recommend them too. Make sure you read the back of the package. So this package says they're multi-flowering, of course. They're suitable for your flower beds, for balconies, pots, and containers, and plant as a solitaire, so make sure you plant them one at a time, but also plant them in groups. And that means don't make a hole and put a whole bunch in like you would with tulips. You want to make a hole for each one, but you also want to kind of cluster them if you want to make an impact, because of course the more you have, the more clustering, the more impact it's going to be, but put them about 8 to 12 inches apart. You can go a little closer if they're smaller, obviously bigger if they're larger plants. See anything else? And it also tells me, right, they are sun and partial sun loving, and I'm pretty sure I've said that at some time, but you can definitely put your dahlias in the sun or partial shade, however you want to say that. So don't worry if you're concerned if you have mostly shade or, you know, only. And partial sun means about up to 6 hours of sunlight. So if you only get it in the morning or the evening, that's okay. Full sun, of course, is 8 hours or more, and shade as well. Speckles of light coming through a tree or something like that. So I'm Scarlett. Thanks for watching. This was how to plant your dahlias, or buy them if that's what you want to do. And I will see you in the next episode. I do hope you enjoyed this series on planting your dahlias. I will be continuing it, of course, as the season goes on, and I'll definitely give you guys a little update to show you what it looks like. Or of course you'll see it in every episode, but I'll give you an update to show you what it looks like as soon as they start to bloom, and I can, you know, have something to show you. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It's always cool to get a thumbs up. It tells me that you guys like what I'm doing and you like what you're seeing. You like my editing, my cutting, my style, all that good stuff. So I really appreciate that. Do put your comments below. Tell me what you're growing, what your favorite bulbs are, if you're growing dahlias, if you're growing anything else. I know, for example, my mother grows daylilies like it's going crazy. That is by far her favorite flower. And luckily for her, she doesn't have to dig them up at the end of the year, which is very, very cool. So tell me what you're growing flower-wise, and I'll see you in the next episode. Toodaloo!